So something that's been in the news a lot lately is the Flint, Michigan story. I know that we've done a segment on it, but a new update that we have is that actually there are now emails apparently showing the state officials and other officials knew what was going on and either didn't believe them and made light of the story or blamed it on other groups or conspiracy theorists instead of what was actually going on. And Aaron, what were you saying about it?
Well, what we saw in our emails was not only were they taking light of these issues, they were stating the people who were saying that their water was tampered with were just preliminary results. These people weren't really given the water time, which was actually false. These people had given the water plenty of time, but they were still complaining about it. But on top of that, they said the people who continued to complain about these issues and continued to state that the water that they were drinking was contaminated were actually a part of a kind of non-governmental movement that just kind of wanted to make the establishment look bad, which was completely false. And this was even proven by a person from the EPA who had sent them an email stating that the way that the Flint, Michigan officials had been testing the water was vastly underestimating the true lead content that was in the water, which means that not only did they know that there was lead in the water, that they said there was less lead than there really was in the water, which didn't show the type of importance that needed to when you have 900 times the recommended amount of lead in your water. So it shows a lack of common decency and a lack of respect for various citizens in the area. That's what it means to me.
Yep.
Well, what's even more a lack of respect or common decency is that they mocked the people who were making these complaints, saying they were just whining about the aesthetics and it wasn't really a big deal. That's more of it's one thing to do this and then just kind of like let it happen and ignore what everybody else is saying. It's a whole other thing to treat your people who are complaining to you about the problem as though they're just big babies. They're mad about anything and everything. It's nothing really. So,
to me, it's just shocking that how am I complaining about the aesthetics when my water has been brown for 20 months? 20 months, my water has been undrinkable, unwashable, unlivable, unsmellable. My water smells like fecal matter. My water smells like eggs. My water smells so disgusting, I can't even bring a glass of it up to my face without semi-curling, and I'm just complaining and whining? This is what these officials said in their actual emails, which we had to force them to release, which they didn't want to release in the beginning, which wasn't shown.
Obviously not, they didn't want to show this. Whether it is active negligence and them thinking, okay, these people are just complaining to complain, or if this was just delusional denial is the only thing I could say. There's no way it's, our fault. Nothing's ever our fault. No, this was your all's fault. To save $100 a day, you decided to poison the next 5 generations of your people, of your town. Anybody who drank that is gone for the next 3 to 5 generations. It hits the DNA. It doesn't just hit the person that drank it. It hits their kids and their grandkids and their great-grandkids. This is a mess up beyond belief for $100 a day.
And the fact that Governor Rick Snyder had the audacity to say in an interview that he would allow his grandchildren and his children to still bathe in this water based on these results that he's been putting out. Well, based on what I knew, I would still allow my children to bathe in this water because it's not as bad as, what we were really telling people. No, that's bullshit. You were telling people it was okay and it was poisonous. Poisonous. And by those same accounts, you would allow your grandchildren and your children to bathe in this water? What kind of a person are you?
Not only that, there was someone else who was another official who actually, they were at like, I forget what they're called, I guess it's like a town hall or something, and he actually drank the water to prove that it was okay. But yeah, I think the more important thing here is that after this came out, after Governor Rick Snyder decided to appeal to President Obama and declare a state of emergency.
After he was being investigated.
After that, Republicans in the Congress decided to try and change the legislation on the Clean Water Act. And thankfully,
that is so crazy.
President Obama vetoed that.
After they have blatantly violated the EPA's Clean Water Act. They violated by putting the chlorine in the water, which we had previously stated. They had violated it by 900 times the EPA's limit for lead in the water. And then on top of that, my fellow Republicans had the audacity to say that we have too many EPA water regulations and they need to be minimized. We just poisoned an entire city, and yet the EPA needs to be less regulated.
Yep. This is the logic. That in order to save money, you have to make things unsafe. And unfortunately, when it comes to our food, when it comes to our water, when it comes to our shelter, there are certain things you cannot be lax on. You can't do it with our pharmaceuticals. You can't do it with our automotive regulations. Look at what China's going through with their smog.
Shit, China's still putting lead in baby toys.
Right.
That's a lack of proper regulation.
Say whatever you want to say about global warming, but smog. And by helping with the EPA regulations on vehicles, smog is not nearly what it used to be, at least that I recall the reports being, but China is dealing with it because China doesn't care. But regardless, regulations should not be punitive, but regulations should be safety in mind. I'm sorry. I would rather somebody spend $100 more of my tax money to make sure that my water is drinkable, bathable, smellable, consumable. Water is the basic ingredient of life. And to send that as poison, don't sit there and tell me you've done your job. You obviously have not.